Thank you very much, Professor Rosenbrock. And now, this was the national level. Now we come to the Berlin level. It's the same, the chairwoman of the Berlin welfare umbrella organization, Paritätischer Wohlfahrtsverband, is Barbara John. Professor Barbara John is not only the chair of this organization, but I would say she is a leading expert on questions of migration and immigration, with a long career and working in this field in her former, let's say, professional life. Barbara John.
Well, good morning to all of you, dear friends from all over the world, and also to the Berliners from all over the world. This is a day of many talkings, and as you all know, talking is a cheap business. It doesn't cost a lot. It is, at the end of the day, the people who do things that change the world. And I'm proud to be here among people who are the doers, being in the settlement movement and in the neighborhood movement. So this is the most important thing. Nevertheless, I have to talk now. And, and I hope that you can catch some ideas from what we are telling you, or what we are saying here, some ideas what not to do, and perhaps also some ideas what to do. I will start with a saying that I learned from Vietnamese boat people who came to Berlin at the beginning of 1980, last century. Some of you will remember the name of Rupert Neudeck, a good friend of mine who died recently. He crossed the sea, the Chinese Sea, in order to rescue people who had to leave Vietnam. And Germany in the 80s already took about 10,000 of them. If you cross the city now, you will see a lot of Asian shops, mostly are run very successfully by these Vietnamese people. They are really a pillar among other minorities, of course, here in our city. And from these Vietnamese people, I learned a silver line, a saying that says, when you drink from a well, think of the builder. And we are all drinking, I think, as people who are belonging to the movement of settlements. We are drinking from the well which a lady created, Jane Addams, in the 19th and in the 20th century. She was the forerunner, the founder of what is now called the International Federation of Settlements. She received the Nobel Prize for Freedom in 1931. A woman, weak, physically weak, fragile, but with a strong mind. And I think we all owe a lot to her in having founded this organization, which is now so strong. I have to look for my Brille. And there is a link between what I used to do during the recent 20 or 30 years. I became the Commissioner for Integration and Migration in 1981. A link between what you do, what Jane Addams did, and what I was doing, and what we all have to do now. And therefore I will give you a little, some little things to to think about, because when I was appointed as the first commissioner here in Berlin, there wasn't anything I could read about doing such a job, because there was no commissioner for integration before in Germany. I was the first one, and before this I was teaching German as a second language at the Free University. I educated teachers how to teach children who speak another language, learning Germany in a very professional way. So I didn't know anything. What should I do? I'm the commissioner now, and I was told I had 3 people to work with me, and I was told, sit down and write concepts, what we call here in Germany from the green table, just write concepts, how to get better housing, work, education for these people. But don't meet these people, because there are already many people, many organizations who do this. And then I said, well, if I should do it like this, keep your job to your own, you can do it. I don't do this job in the way you give me the order, because I have to see people. I have to meet these people. These migrants must get a voice of themselves. And it was a really fight in our chamber of, in the political chamber here, to get the money and to get the staff to do it. But in the end, I was successful. I had enough staff that everybody who wanted to come to our office could come every day. So we had 70, 80 people per day. And you know what happened? The most important things I learned were not from, of course, from the law books or from what my colleagues told me, but it was done, it was committed by the people who came to my office, because they could tell me how they were treated by the then present law for foreigners. I give you an example. This were the 80s when Germany received so many guest workers, but as the name tells you already, guest workers means you come and you go. We use you, or you can be here as long as we have work, and if there is no longer work, please go home again. And family unification was like this. It's only under 16, then it was extended to 18, you could bring your children in. But what happened in some of the families, and some of you will recall this very vividly, there were girls who were not allowed to go to school after the age of 16 by their parents, because this is a cultural, sometimes this is a cultural habit in those countries where they came from. And then the girls had to leave the families. And leaving the families meant leaving the permission to stay here, because they could only stay here when they lived with their family, because this was the law. You come here to live with your family. You don't come here to live outside in a home for girls. So, I mean, it's an incredible situation. And of course, it was then my business of the commissioner to do something for this. So let me stop here about this. What I wanted to bring to your mind is that I learned, I know that it is those who are under this kind of pressure can teach you what to do, not only in a single case, but how to change the laws, which was done. And now we have a much better law from, of course, many influences, that stems from many influences that we have. So, I would first show you a first slide. This is, as you recognize easily, where the IFS is spread all over the world. And it's easy to detect where you come from. But what we also see here is that in the Arab Muslim world there is hardly any any organization like you who is working there. There is only one organization in the Near East, that is Israel. Is there somebody from Israel here? Oh, great. A warm welcome to you. Representatives, I think what I was told is that you have, there are 26 member organizations around this, and good that you are here. We have to ask ourselves, and probably this is something you also have to or could discuss, why isn't there any organization like you in the Arab Muslim world? Because we have now about 4 million Muslim in our country, and we are seeking for an opportunity to get really in touch with them. And what we see is that the social work they also need is mostly done in the traditional way by the jamis. These are the small, not very representative mosques, and by the mosques. And I think that in this Muslim world, this is also the case. So there is social work. It is done very often by their own religious communities. And we now have started, and Herr Rosenbrock knows it very well, that the Paritätische Wohlfahrtsverband is trying to train these Muslim organizations to have a better understand or to do the job they are doing already, but in connection with also the settlement movement and with the Paritätische Wohlfahrtsverband. So you see how that an outreach is very necessary, and I think that you are the right organization for this. I also, well, I have let me put it like this. Renate Wilkening was a former vice president, and she is the present newly re-elected vice president. Congratulations to you, Renate, and I'm sure you also came to Germany to have a look how she works and lives here. And where Renate is, this is my experience, because she's working in the Uferfabrik. There is much more also, and especially in Germany there is now much more, but because we have, Berlin has, or Germany has become the most attractive country for refugees and labor migrants worldwide. For 2 years now, we are bigger in receiving labor migrants and refugees than, far more bigger than the United States and than all the classical immigration country. This is a development which puts a lot of problems to the country, and we can't solve them all, and I will talk about them later. It will take a long time until we learn what we have really to do. It was already mentioned that more than 1 million refugees came in 2015, from the Near East, from Iraq, from Afghanistan and Africa. And now Turkey, a country that received itself about 3 million refugees, Turkey is the doorkeeper for the European Union to prevent more people to come to the European Union. We have a deal with Turkey. We pay 6 billion euros to Turkey in order to prevent this. This, of course, is an ambiguous business, but it gives the European Union some relief for the time being, and I think it will not last forever, of course. Bitte? Kommt gleich, ja? Achso, ja. Here you see how people, these two routes, that people come via the route Greece and Macedonian, and then Hungary and Austria to Germany, and the other blue arrow comes from the African countries via Italy. These are the two big routes by which refugees come to Germany. And to fully understand what dramatic change Germany has made, you have to understand that up to 2005, Germany had a vital political interest to be a non-immigration country. We were not ready until 2005 and are hardly ready now to really be an open country for immigration, namely to change the composition of the population by immigration. We resisted this. This was a state policy. We are a non-immigration country. And suddenly this changed by taking in so many people. And I give you some reasons for that sudden change. Firstly, we understood that we have a demographic problem, aging population, needing qualified labor from outside. But why suddenly so many refugees come? Well, you know the hard conditions in the region for the refugees who had to fled from Syria. Those people we received didn't come immediately directly from Syria, which is not possible. When you have to leave Syria, you go to another country. You go to Jordan, you go to Lebanon, you can reach Egypt, or you can reach Turkey. And most of the people come from these countries because they can no longer stand the hard conditions which are there. There they have to work, don't get social welfare, any support from welfare organizations, and therefore some of them, of course, prefer to come here. Why are so many in Germany and not in other countries? You know the story that there is no European solidarity. Many Eastern European countries, they refuse to take in many refugees. They refuse to take in Muslim refugees. And so, of course, the possibilities, the economic and social possibilities people have in those countries are very dire. Here in Germany, everybody who is here gets about 1,000 euros per month, and when you come to Poland, for example, you get about 60 euros, and you get a home, something like a home, but here you get the money for getting an apartment in the end, not in the beginning, and you get about 400 euros per month. So Germany is attractive in its hospitality as Sweden is. So this is, of course, one of the reasons. And then there's a question of access. How can people come to Germany? How can they reach that country? Because we had open borders and uncontrolled borders, so everybody could come in 1915, and those who make it to Greece now and are not kept on the island of Lesbos, for example, they still can make it if they are not withdrawn by the fences which are built, which is difficult. So we still have a big and huge problem what to do with people who are still trying to come to Western European countries and mainly to Germany. It's a thing we are thinking all the time, and my impression is that the government doesn't really know how to deal with this, and it is a difficult question. Now let me tell you, how did the Germans react? And I give you some anecdotal evidence. Well, we had one can say that it was a business, or it was civil society, a flexible, very flexible civil society. Ordinary people, when they heard in the media that a train is coming carrying refugees from Austria to Germany, they were running nearly to the to the station, to the main station, in order to welcome people, and they were feeding them, they were giving them clothes and everything these people needed. And there was a very more or less inflexible public administration. Well, you know, normally public administrations are inflexible because they have to listen to their orders. You have a competency in this, but you don't have a competency in that. So, an example: when people arrived in these in the gymnastic halls, but because we had no other possibility to give them shelter and food, you could ask them, where do you come from and what is your name? But you couldn't ask them, it's forbidden, they told me, to ask them, what is your profession? What did you do? Can you do a certain job? No, that was forbidden. It is not in the competency of this public administration, social administration. So what we have now is that people stay for a very long time in these very primitive shelters, and it will take nearly 2 years until they hopefully will get into a job. Hopefully. It is a very, very, it's a long time business, and I think that work is some of the things which are the most successful signal for the society here that they belong to our society. So another anecdotal evidence done by the welfare culture. We had tons of teddy bears suddenly. Everybody brought the teddy bears of the children, of their own children, but we didn't have beds where the people could put the teddy bears. So we had this scarceness of beds, because when a million people come, and you have to buy these in the market, there was no market any longer. So we had to go to France and to other countries. Hopefully we got them there. And of course this had to be organized. So there was a mismatch within things who were really needed, tents and beds and blankets and so on, and things people brought to the shelters. And then there were not angry people, but people who were who couldn't understand what's going on when suddenly the gymnastic hall of their children was taken, and people were living there, 200 people, 300 people, 800 people in a big room, in a very big shelter. And so I remember one question which was put, and well, it's probably not very politically correct to ask to give it to you, but I will do it because you will understand what's going on people's mind in such a situation. So one of the questions was, how can you make sure that people don't proliferate in those emergency accommodations? I don't know whether you fully understand this, but that they don't become so many children because they are living in such a room. Well, there was no answer, of course, by people who were present there. And I think it would have not been a good idea to ask the people themselves, what would you do? But after yesterday, we should have posed another question to ourselves. Because I don't know, I think you didn't read in the newspapers what happened yesterday in one of our bigger shelters in Moabit, that a refugee from Iraq was shot by the police and he died. He was the father of a 6-year-old girl who was raped by another refugee. And when the police arrived and took charge of this perpetrator, the father was coming and having a knife, so, well, it was a situation in turmoil and the police didn't really know what to do. So this happened. So we should have posed another question to ourselves. How can we prevent that so many crimes, or is it preventable? Are crimes preventable when people live for such a long time in this kind of shelter? I think it is not, and the statistics are giving proof that it is not. We have 48 sexual misuses, we have more than 1,000 violent crimes, smaller and bigger in those homes. So when I tell you this, I want to be very frank and open that there are dark sides also. It isn't a folklore business to have so many refugees. You really have to be very, very professional. You must be prepared. You must know what is inevitable to happen. We didn't know. We didn't prevent this. And so we have a chance to learn, because more people will come in this actual year, 2016, already 256,000 people have entered Germany, refugees have entered Germany. It's far less than, of course, in 2015, but it's continuing on a lower scale. And I will tell you the short story of Sofian, a refugee from Syria. He tried to get registered here in Berlin. He queued 6:30 in the morning. We had -10 degrees Celsius. I think it's about 18 degrees Fahrenheit. And the heating, there was a heating tent, finally there was a heating tent. It was opened only at 10 o'clock, so he was waiting there for 4 hours in the cold. The security staff, because people were nervous and started, to ask all the time, so the security was very angry and harassed the people. And about 4 o'clock in the afternoon that day, he could enter the building to get his registration. And you know what happened there? They said to him, "Come back 4 weeks later. No opportunity today." So these are the things which happened in the beginning. It's much better now, but it is a glimpse on what a country goes through when it takes in so many refugees in a very short time. So what can we do? We ask ourselves, of course, as a welfare organization, what can we do? We are organized, we have people who are professional in dealing with people in need with the situation. I must tell you, I forgot my real spectacles, and this one is always falling from, now it's better, yeah. So what can we do? And this reminds you of the silver line that Angela Merkel, our chancellor, was, I think she adopted really, wir schaffen das. She adopted this from the very famous slogan from Obama, "Yes, we can." It's the same as "Yes, we can." Wir schaffen das. That is a German translation for this. So you see, when we gave you how people came here, and now, dann muss da noch eins dazwischen sein. Nee, ist jetzt nicht. Gut, dann lassen wir das mal. No, so what could we do as the biggest welfare organization here in Berlin? Well, the first idea was support our members because they are very near to these people. When I was the commissioner, I started to give money to these organizations because the idea was these people must organize themselves. They must get a voice, they must interfere, they must be partners of politics, of other organizations, and they must get into contact. So we had quite a lot. We have 30, 50 migrant organizations. And of course we have the neighborhood centers here in 30 neighborhood centers. So we started to tell them, we have money, you have the staff, so we give you money and you do things for these people. We started with 100,000 euros distributing to them, and over the last 2 years we have distributed 800 euros from our foundation. 1,000 euros, not 800. 800,000 euros, nearly $1 million, which we could give to our organizations. They could deal with this, and of course they also get money from the state. It was told what we heard from the state secretary. So what could they do? They had to face-to-face encounter with the refugees. They gave them small jobs, language teaching, consulting them, assistant, helped in housing and so on. Everything the people needed here, it was provided by these centers. We gave support to new initiatives run by volunteers. There were so many people enthusiastic about doing something because, I mean, they were neighbors of people who lived in dire situations, but they lived in a regularity. They had a home, they had a social network, but these people who came now had nothing of this. So there were so many people who wanted to do something, and we tried and we did really support them. We trained these volunteers to manage the task. When they needed space and infrastructure, they got this in our centers for their work. You will see this in this afternoon when you do field work here. We were bringing these volunteers in touch with local and regional administration here. And we got, from the state, we got a budget of 250,000 euros to stabilize all the initiatives which were emanating. And of course, we were lobbying for the support of refugees. Within the media, for example, there was a media call, no, it was, the story is very, it's a good story because it shows how prepared people were. Our local TV station, they interviewed a Syrian engineer, and he said he spoke very good German already, and well, he said that he's looking for a job, but he couldn't find a job, and so on and so on and so on. And because he needed a driver license and he couldn't get it. So they collected, and people said, well, this is not, we can give this money, we can donate this money. So they sent about 20,000 euros to the local station, and then the TV station said, well, we cannot distribute this money. It's not our task to distribute the money. Isn't there any organization? We were the organization. So we took the money, and then we could distribute it. And what we experienced was another thing which we had to change much earlier, because when you come to Germany, you have to renew your driver's license within 6 months. If you overstay this, you have to have a new license. So nobody asked them, do you need a driver's license, so on and so on. So most people overstayed this time, and they had to renew their driver's license, which means more money to do the examination, more money to do the driver's practice. And so we could do this for not only for this man, but also for other people, and they have a much better chance than really to get a job. So you could see that you really have to look into the needs of people, and then you have to help them. Money is not the problem in this city. Suddenly, we experience that when formerly organizations asked for money, there was no money. But now we have money, and we start to lack people who can spend the money in a very sensible way already. So this is something which has also changed. And we also encouraged our organizations to have to open refugee centers, because we know there were privately run refugee centers, business-like refugee centers. We make a business by running a center, not we, but these people, these private people, because it is well, quite an economic and a good business to do this. And we encouraged our members to do this, because first they don't wanted it to do. And now we have a number. We started with zero, and now we have 16 organizations of ourselves who run 25 accommodations with about 7,000 refugees. And there is a lot of control, and I think we can say they really try their best to have very good accommodation. So and I would like to give you examples of projects that we still support. And you can see 3 here. Welcome dinner. Yeah, there is a classic, probably you know it, there is a classic trajectory when you speak about integrations. What do people first, what do they second, and what is the end, what do they finally? And the trajectory is first people deal with each other. Of course, we couldn't deal anything first with the refugees coming, but the second thing is eating with each other, getting in social contact, the classic trajectory. And the third is marrying between each other, dealing, eating together, marrying each other. I think one well understands, because this is a social habit which works everywhere. And therefore, the welcome dinner is something which is very easy. So families or organizations, yesterday I heard we had a big welcome dinner supported by the Rotary clubs here in Berlin, in Neukölln. People invite refugees, they come to their homes, they have a translator, or they can talk in English, and they get acquainted, and they get more help, and they win friends. So this is a very easy but very successful endeavor. Then we have another one. We call it Rückenwind. So it's push from behind. You see that people are repairing bicycles here together with refugees, and the aim is, it is very expensive to traveling in the city. Tickets are expensive if they don't go to the welfare or to the state and to do something, they don't get a ticket. So they really needed something to move in the city, and I think that the bicycle, Berlin is a city for bikes, and therefore this is really some very first-hand help for them. And the last one I can show you, there are hundreds of them. We go back. Yeah, it's not very, what you can recognize is not so very clear, but this is an organization which works at the former airport Tempelhofer Feld, which is situated in the center of the city between Neukölln and Kreuzberg. And there are refugees, and these people, they collected, you can see all kinds of stuff there, of clothing, of other things, and these it was, for a time being, it was the largest refugee camp we had. So they were setting up a coffee, provided clothing, and kept the children entertained and gave them some learning. And there also what was mentioned by the State Secretary, the Office for Consulting them was also established there. So let me come to my last point. Yeah, challenges. Challenges ahead. Well, it was already mentioned that there is a new right-wing party now in our city, which we never had with such a big part of the vote. They gained 42 points 2 weeks ago in the regional, here in the state election, and we ask ourselves, how can we prevent that coherence and solidarity with refugees shrink, because there is a lot of propaganda of this party, and I think we cannot be sure what really to do. So this is this is a task for everybody who is living here in the city. Then another challenge, the state program which is run, and which means, I mentioned it already, there will be 2 years of training. The program is we have to train these people, language courses, another language course, a course how to get a job, this and that, and it is calculated that it will take 2 years until people can go into the job market. And we ask ourselves, will it work? Or will many of them stay dependent on welfare, on the welfare check? Because most are not highly qualified, and when they go into the labor market, they might not earn more money than they get from the state. So we have to have this in mind in order to really bring them into jobs as early as we can. There has been a recent study, a poll asking people, not only people who live here for a long time, but also all groups of migrants, the Turkish Berliners, other people not only in Berlin. And the question was, what is the most important criteria to say that somebody belongs to Germany, that he is accepted? What is the most important criteria? And you know, it was not the religion or the nationality or the gender or whatever. It was if he works. Working is for most people the most, not only for those who are living here and for those who come, the most important criteria for feeling he belongs to us. I don't know how it is in your country, but I think it might be nearly the same thing. So, well, my last sentence is there is in Berlin, and of course I'm in the market section now, there is one organization solid as a rock, and you know which it is. Solid as a rock, who really gives help to people, who tries hard, who is successful, but who has to improve itself, what it does. And this organization is the Paritätische, of course, with the settlement organization, the neighborhood organizations. When you will meet them this afternoon, you will see how serious, how hard, how intensive they do their work. So thank you all for coming, having a look at this, and when you go home, don't forget Berlin, don't forget Germany, who struggles and who probably can teach Europe and probably some other parts of the world how it became a successful and an attractive country of immigration. Thank you very much.